like adding you're not adding anything new to the explanation.
You can just say it's taken to be the case that you can say it on me with only one dilemma.
I had no idea what you just
if
said.
You're not able to know, you can't imply this on me, taking to be the case that you only brought one dilemma. If I would do it to every single dilemma I would bring, then yes, but if I change the maximum one dilemma, that's not.
All right, let's say there were muzzles in your attic then. All right, you got to use the same ad hoc rescue device.
Hitler didn't want to.
What if they're OnlyFans?
Hitler didn't want to eat. Huh?
What if there are Palestinian children up there?
the Bedouin is back. What's up?
Hello, manishma habibi. Wait, are you guys arguing about the necessity of God?
No. It was a topic before.
I don't know, man. All this philosophizing and shit.
Look, earlier on you said like somehow like a system's going to be better if it's objective, quote unquote objective in the sense, and you haven't like given a reason why.
I said the system
especially when you're going to bite this ridiculous.
I said the system would be better if it would have less subjective premises.
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said, right? And I'm asking you why. Right?
In my system, there is less subjective.
An analytical argument in syllogism. Why I should accept it?
Give me an analytical argument.
Like, listen, I just showed you why, right? It's going to be goofy to say something like that when I could just easily give a reductio and make you look like a goofball.
You didn't show why.
Right? I even grant it, right? That it would be better if you like.
You didn't show why it was goofy.
You haven't shown why like doing this maneuver is going to be better or good. That's just like a normal plane. That's what we're talking about.
Because it has less subjective premises.
Yeah, why would that matter in morality?
But it matters in every single case.
Right, if the consequence of your
less subjective premises, less subjective premises
own virtue, okay,
implies that
if the consequence of your view, if the consequence of holding to this principle, this normative principle, right, is that your view reduces this ad hoc mess, right, or you're like killing Jews because you don't want to like break a stupid principle, then I'm just gonna say it's a stupid fucking axiom to hold.
I didn't came to this conclusion, man. The reason why mine is superior is because less subjective statements.
That's what's in dispute. Why would that be the case?
Oh my god! The reason why my system is better because less subjective axioms.
Yeah, that's what's in dispute. I'm saying no.
That's I don't want to mute.
Well, why would that be a virtue?
Less subjective statements, less possibility of being wrong.
Why would it be less chance of being wrong? I just showed you a case where you
because there is less possible statements.
But why would that be a theoretical virtue?
Not being wrong?
No, why something containing like less claims that are up to subjective interpretation? Like why would that be like why do you think that lends credence to the theory over someone who is like a relativist, for example?
Because there is less possibility to be false. Because there is less objective.
No, but that's incorrect, right? Because under relativism there still would be moral truths. They're just relatively true. So that's false. What you just said is false.
Relatively true or subjectively true?
Relatively true.
Okay.
Yeah, so like they could say the same thing in regards to their theory, and they don't have to give up anything ethically speaking. They don't have to commit to a theory that just generates like more false claims than yours.
My theory doesn't. I wouldn't. Well, according to them, my theory wouldn't generate more false claims. But yeah, but the point is, it wouldn't be it's not like you're comparing your theory against someone who just denies the ontology of like moral properties whatsoever. Like you're comparing your theory with people who do commit to them. They just think that they're relative. No, he doesn't. He said subjective.
Yeah, and but if it's subjective, they still exist. They're just the truth maker.
If they're subjective, with more subjective statements.
But it doesn't matter if it contains more.
Can I finish, please? With more subjective premises, there is a higher chance. Not a chance. There is a higher possibility. There is more places where you can be wronger.
Well, you haven't justified
subjective statements. There is less possibilities where you can be wrong.
Well, you haven't justified.
I don't want to be wrong.
You haven't justified the probabilistic inference that goes from. Okay, my theory contains like more claims that purport to be objective, so therefore it's more likely to be true. You haven't like inferred that from anything. And second of all, you misunderstand what relativism means, right? Because in this context, there are moral truths. They aren't like giving up on like any of the same commitments that you might have. They just have like a more parsimonious view than yours.
He didn't say anything. He said that he's subjective. He judges every moral situation only
what's
only
the problem?
based only
You know why,
oh my god, man! Notice how I don't cut you.
Well, you interrupted me, so why can't I interrupt you? This goes like back and forth.
How did I interrupt you? He judges every moral claim according to him on his intuition. He doesn't have anything more than his intuition.
Yeah, but you know why his view is better than yours? Because your view isn't necessary in order to explain moral intuitions, and he has less ontological commitments than you have. So he's just going to appeal to Occam's razor. He can shave all the bullshit.
He has less ontological. He has less what?
He has less ontological commitments than you have. You don't have a necessary explanation for moral data. Right, so there's no reason as to why you would have to posit more stuff.
He would have more because every single one of his claims would be ontological commitment. He wouldn't have any way to base them besides his intuition.
No, but you're adding.
He would have far more than me.
That you're not understanding. You're adding in some like non-natural moral property, something that which is outside of the ontic catalog of the universe. You're adding something new to our ontology, and then when you're adding that something which is new to your ontology, it doesn't necessarily explain the thing that has to be explained, which is our moral intuition.
What is my ontology?
Well, you hold to some like Kantianism. You hold to this like categoricity of moral norms, and those moral norms are non-natural, right? And I'm saying, like, if you're going to hold to that position, you're going to have to add in more entities than what's required to explain the same stuff. So you can just shave all that shit off.
I don't see any need to add more entities. Nonetheless, what do you mean by it being what do you say, non-natural?
Yeah, it's non-natural. It's not reducible.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
It's not reducible to natural properties. It's not like uncovered, or let's say it's not bounded by the laws of physics. Like you're positing these.
We are talking. Why would it be bounded? We are talking about what is ought to happen. Why would it be bounded by the laws of physics?
This is why you know nothing. This is why you know nothing about meta. This is how I know that you know nothing about meta.
The subject of morality. The subject of morality. The subject of morality.
This is why I know you know nothing.
Oh my man!
This is why I know.
If you're going to have a topic, you're going to be the field of morality and the field of scientific of the sciences of nature are separate. I don't see any reason for this critique to be relevant.
Yeah, okay, so can I talk now?
Of course.
Yeah, so it's not irrelevant, right? Because there's a whole question as to what the properties are in question, right? So either the properties that you're positing are natural or they're non-natural. That's a true dichotomy. You don't think that they're natural because you don't think moral properties are expressed in natural terms, right? So you would have to be a non-naturalist. So what I said wasn't irrelevant.
By non-natural, you mean no, expand further. By non-natural, you mean not limited by physics?
Yeah, it's not reducible to, let's say, physical terms. It's not reducible to the laws of physics, right? A moral property is not the same thing as a rock or something physical. That's what a non-naturalist would say. They're not reflective in natural terms.
And your system is?
It's irrelevant what my system is. I'm critiquing your system, right?
Okay, so correct, yeah.
Yeah, so the question on the table is, if you're a non-naturalist and you want to say that his view has more ontological commitments, then I don't know what you're talking about, right? Because you're positing the physical world plus these unique non-natural properties to explain morality. But A, those unique non-natural properties don't necessarily explain our moral intuitions. And B, it's just going to be empirically equivalent under relativism that we arrive at the same intuitions, but we don't have to posit all this other stuff. So this view is more simplistic than yours. So then the question is, why is your view more theoretically virtuous than the relativist or the fictionalist?
I said why, because I have less subjective premises. In every single case he would judge according to his intuition. That would make every single case to just be a subjective system. In my theory, it's correct that there is some subjective axioms. Nonetheless, I could imply the same subjective axioms and reach through this system somewhat of I can reach somewhat of a conclusion. I have less chance of being wrong.
No, but you haven't justified the probabilistic inference for that, because if you're just taking like parsimony in general, it's just objectively false to say that your view is going like to be more likely to be true than the anti-realist, because you do have more commitments.
No, I have every single in his position. Every single moral theory, every single solution to every single moral situation that he would bring would be subjective. It would be just what he thinks. So it would mean that every single one of them are a commitment that he makes with no reason. In my case, in my case there is some axioms, and through that I would be able to solve most, if not all, moral situations. That would mean I have far less than him. He would have somewhat of an infinity.
Well, I mean, that's just like completely false, because earlier it appears like your system was completely inept at like solving the issue as to whether or not you should lie to the Nazis if, the Nazis knock on your door and they ask like where your daughter or your wife is.
I think you misunderstood me. I think you misunderstood me. I didn't bring some new system for this problem. I stayed with the same system.
Yeah, okay, great. But this is why your logic is so faulty, because you could say that about any system. Like, it's not incompatible. It's not incompatible with relativism to say that I, for like any moral dilemma, just bottom that out and try to explain it away or hand wave it away by like whatever preferences I have at a given time index. Like, I could just say, well, I don't want to lie to the Nazis, so I shouldn't in that scenario, to go back to that dilemma. So then under that, I would just resolve it, like, given, like, whatever desires I have. It can't be the case that you're just picking out whatever axioms you have and then saying from there that, you've justified this, like, moral dilemma as, like, being resolved under your system. Because then the question is, what reasons do you have for holding to like such a moral criteria in the first place? Like, you're just picking and choosing what actions you want. What actions you want to explain things away.
It's correct that I pick and choose my axioms like every other human being on Earth and like every other theory on Earth. My theory would be far better because it would have far less subjective statements. Again, if you would just base your outcome solely on the situation or your instinct, this would make every single one of those into a different subjective solution. That would mean you have something more of an infinite. It would mean if I would bring infinite amount of moral situations, you would have infinite amount of subjective statements. In my system, it's correct. In my system, it's correct that there is some subjective. I have my axioms and all. It's correct that there is some subjective statements. There is far less. That's it.
Yeah, but look, your problem is this like stupid assumption that you make that like for any subjective claim, the subjective claim is
can you speak with some respect? You see how I didn't insult you once every single time.
Okay, great. So here's the problem. Here's the problem with your reasoning, right? You make this assumption that for like any... hold on a second. You make this assumption that for like any subjective claim a person makes under their system, that it's not going to be truth tracking necessarily. Like, it's never, like, if I have a moral intuition and that's just based off of my desire and it's not going to have like any objective reference, then it must not be truth tracking. But that's just false. It is truth tracking to the subjectivist. It's just whatever that truth happens to be made under is like an indexical, right? It's like, it's true in virtue of the fact that I have that concept. Wait, hold on a second.
If this is the case, it's also true about me.
I'm not done. So, to the subjectivist, the truth is going to be made because the person has that concept of morality. The concept furnishes the moral truth that they ought or ought not do something. Now, because that's a conceptual truth, you haven't justified as to why me having a conceptual truth that I ought to do something is like less truth tracking than if it were some conceptually independent moral truth. And you need to justify that, and you haven't.
Truth tracking. Well, again, if you're going to be subjectivist, then it would be equally truth tracking.
No, it's not equally truth tracking.
Yes, it would be. Every single one, I could arbitrarily say stuff, and it would be equally so as truth tracking.
Well, but then you're just assuming that like conceptual truths are like less truth conducive than like non-conceptual truths. Or
I said they're equal. I didn't say they're less.
Truths. Well, yes, that is what you're assuming. If I'm a subjectivist,
I said they're equally. I didn't say they're less.
Well, if they're equal
under the subjective system, my claim and his claim would be equally so true.
Well, look, if they're equally truth conducive, then the only other theoretical virtue that a subjectivist can point to is parsimony, right? Because if it yields the same predictive value and it yields the same alethic value, then you can shave off all your commitments by just appealing to your desires. You don't have to appeal to any non-natural spooky shit to explain the same stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so then if the question...
Then I would make the case that you're acting more like an animal than a human being. You're just appealing to your desires. You're not using the intellect.
What do you mean appealing to my desires? Like concepts
the way that an animal acts, it's just according to the desires.
He's basically saying you're hedonistic. That's what he's trying to say.
It doesn't have any way to act according to its desires. A human being.
I don't understand the last
word. A human being. I said an animal acts according to its desires. A human being can act not according to its desires. If you're just going, can I finish? It was 2 sentences. A human being, a human being can act not according to his desires. Not if you want to act like an animal in every single scenario, it's fine. And well, it wouldn't be fine, but okay. You wouldn't be able to critique my theory then.
No, I would be, right? The whole issue... Well, hold on a second. The whole issue regarding your theory is that you haven't justified that there's like a real distinction between like how we ought to act in the world versus how we do act in the world, right? Like, if the ought is just supervenient on my mental... Wait, hold on a second. If the ought is just going to be supervenient on my mental states, it could just be the case that I have a concept of morality.
I would love to have gay sex with you. Gives me that ass, but
I'm sorry it took so much time. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so just because it's the case that you think like that doesn't mean that it's actually the case. I could think that the ought there is just like supervenient on my concept of morality. And the concept of morality... Wait, hold on a second. And the concept of morality...
No, I'm not going to listen. This time I'm going to overspeak you because you're saying just because I think like that. You're assuming my argument. You're assuming that my argument is just I think like that. I have no rational argument.
That was not a gotcha.
In the same way I don't strawman you. Don't strawman me.
Wait, but I'm not. So, well, how am I strawmanning you? I'm saying you
don't know my argument. You can ask my argument.
Subjectivism is like the thesis that there are moral truths. It's just that those moral truths are like dependent on mental states. But you think that all mental states are exhausted by preferences, right? That's like your first issue. I could be a subjectivist.
Again, all mental states. I'm asking you to repeat because I didn't get the part.
Subjectivism
all
is the
mental
view.
States? What do you mean by all mental states? Depends.
Yeah, that all things in your head. You think that all things in your head are like exhausted by preferences. They're all like.
When did I say that? I said exactly the opposite. I said that's the case with animals, not with human beings.
No, but the truth maker can be something mental, but not in terms of a desire. It could be like a concept that I have in my mind.
I agree. I said with animals.
So then how is that?
It is desire. I said with animals.
Okay, great.
I said no. I said with animals.
Okay, great. You agree.
No. I said with animals. It is okay. Shut your mouth. I said with animals, it is the case they act according to the
this guy's like modern
human beings.
Yeah, so then the question is, if I'm able to make moral statements that are dependent on my mind, but they're not emotional statements, then how am I an animal? How am I tantamount to like what you said about animals? Because I'm making a moral statement. I'm making a moral statement.
No. You asked me a question.
Hold on a second.
Man, you can't monologue for half an hour. Man, you can't monologue for half an hour. It's not.
I'm trying to qualify a statement. I think that's all.
No, I want to answer a question. I can't listen for 20 minutes. My answer would be: an animal acts only according to its desires. A human being has the ability to put his desires aside and act according to his intellect.
Yeah, but that's not
when you claim that the moral when you claim that the way you just act when there is moral situations just according to your desires, then you act like an animal. That's what an animal does. That's
okay, but subjectivism is not the thesis that for like any moral action that's taken, it's done on the basis purely on desire. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, right? And you seem not to get it. Like I can have a moral statement which is derivative from my mind, but it's not an emotion. It could be like a conceptual truth, right? I could say, "Oh, it's a conceptual truth that I ought to maximize pleasure.
Okay.
Therefore, it's good to maximize pleasure."
In subjectivism, how would you approach moral problems?
How would I approach whatever the concept of morality that I employ? But I'm denying that concept.
Okay, so the guy that I spoke to before said that the way he deals with moral problems is just according to his intuition.
Yeah, but an intuition can be an intellectual. It could be an intellectual seeming. It doesn't have to be like purely emotional based.
Is not intuition. I didn't reference emotions once. I think you're referring to desires. An instinct is not intellectual. An instinct is just the first thing that pops to my mind. For example, if I throw a metal ball towards your face, you would have an instinct to dodge. It's not. You didn't use the brain to think you should dodge. That's an instinct. An instinct isn't related to intellect.
Yeah, so look, I need to go for a second.
I need to go for a man. Bold. I need to go for a second.
You can have.
Bold, I need to go for a second. I'm not going to be there. If in 1 second I'll be back.
Damn, you running away? Damn. Pussy.
Do you think like particularism means that you need to like make split-second knee-jerk reactions?
Yes, exactly. What do I think again?
No, look. So you can have forget about what he said. Look, you can have an intuition which is like used as a way to build a theoretical framework off of. It's not. You're using intuition as like how most people. As like a knee-jerk reaction to something, but I'm thinking of it as like I have a sense impression. I have a sense impression that like informs me as to how I should build my theory, and in this case, it has to deal with a moral theory. And so, if I have a concept of morality, and let's say that concept of morality is like I don't know, like actions that like promote human flourishing and well-being, like I'm going to act in accordance with that concept. Just because I have that concept and that concept is mental, that doesn't mean that it's like purely emotionally based. It's not animalistic. Or else you're going to have to bite the bullet. Or else you're going to have to bite. Hold on a second. Or else you're going to have to bite the bullet and say that whenever we make moral judgments or evaluative claims that are dependent on our concepts, we're just merely emoting. Like all concepts are animalistic, knee-jerk reactions to things. And I'm pretty sure you don't want to hold that position.
Man, so did you choose to want humanity to flourish? It's something that you intellectually chose. Did you sit in the room and you thought,
it's a concept. The concept is going to be reflective. Man, it's how I've defined morality.
You intellectually chosen this specific desire.
Yeah, I rationally chose that.
Then it's
concept.
not a desire.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a second.
What did you
forget the term desire? I'm saying I have a concept. I'm saying I have a concept of morality and I intellectualize it this way. How is that tantamount to me just appealing to my desires?
You have a concept of morality and you what with it?
I have an intuition, and then from that intuition, I base my moral concept off of that, right? Like, how is that tantamount to me, like, being an animal, like running loose with my emotions?
That's not. That's not the theory that you presented. If you have an intuition, and from this you
Wait,
build a moral concept.
It is though.
If you
because
have
the theory in question,
you can say, man, you can't. No, you can't monologue for half an hour and then cut out somebody after 1 second.
Yeah. So look, I have a concept of morality.
Okay, no, I'm being charitable, like very charitable. In this case, if he would have used his intuition, and from this he would build some moral system that he would judge as actions, then fair enough. That's what Kant did. I have no problem with that. What he's doing is different. He's taking his intuition and he's judging every single moral situation solely on his intuition. That's why I said it's animalistic. Well, right now I didn't say it to him, but right now and I still hold this claim. The difference between what he's saying and what I am saying is that I used my intuition to subsidize axioms and propositions, and from that I build. And from that, I use my intellect to and I apply the system to every single moral situation. I don't just use my intuition. If you would have done the same, or if you would have bring a proposition, if you would bring a system which is equal to this, then fair enough.
Okay. Are you done yapping? Okay, so look.
You're going to act with respect, or you're not going to speak that. You're going to act with respect, or you're not.
No, you were yapping. You're actually gibbering.
I think it's a very fair thing to ask, that you're going to act with respect.
Yeah, so look, I never changed my framework, by the way, because I'm still operating under the framework. You never gave your framework. I'm still. See, now you're scared. Now you
never gave your framework. I asked you your framework, and you said.
Look,
you never gave your framework. I asked you for your framework. You're not going to lie like you're not going to lie like you gave an argument.
You're going to interrupt every single sentence that I say because you're too scared of what the objection is.
I asked you for your framework. You said
the framework.
My framework isn't relevant to the critique of your moral theory. I agreed, relevant. But you didn't give a moral framework. What is your moral framework?
Oh my God, the sky is sped.
What is your moral framework?
It is relevant.
This guy explains why Israel is unjustly killing Gaza.
The framework that I'm operating under is still the framework that moral truths are dependent on conceptual truths, right? They're still mental. Yeah, like so. This framework that I'm operating under is that moral truths are mental truths, right? That's still subjectivism. Now, you seem to think that subjectivism only means that moral truths are just emotive truths, but I'm asking you what the justification for that is. Because I can invoke a mental state. I can invoke a mental state like my concept, and my concept is going to be the truth maker for that moral proposition. But I'm not doing it on the basis of emotion. So, like, I want you to justify why I have to hold to emotionalism if I'm a subjectivist.
How is it emotional? Okay. So let me steal your position for a second. Let's see if I understood it. Your critique is that I view morality to be some sort of separate from physical reality, and that I shouldn't.
I never said anything about Look, what I said was I'm a subjectivist. I think moral truths depend upon like truths about my mind or like mental truths. And like what I want you to justify is that commits me to thinking that all moral statements are emotionally based.
I didn't say emotionally based.
You said if I'm a subjectivist, I'm committed to thinking everyone is emoting when they're making
two words is not enough for me to explain what I said. When I never said emotion. What I said was that if you're going to purely use your intuition, that's animalistic.
Yeah, but I never said this.
That's the only thing. Oh my god, that's the only thing.
I never said this is why you're so fucking
man.
retarded.
Do you notice I spoke 3 words? You overtalked me. You were monologuing for 20 hours. I didn't overspeak you. My critique was again that when it comes, the guy overspeaks. What do you want? What do you want me to sit and overspeak me?
Just answer the question.
It's not overspeaking. Just 20 minutes for him, 2 minutes for me. I know. My critique was that animals can only use the intuition. If you want to change the word intuition to mental state, okay, mental state, the same thing. I don't see how it's different. Let me speak now. Can you explain it? Maybe I would have thought you.
Yeah, I can step in if you'd like.
I would rather stand in.
Yeah, so look, it's not purely based on intuition. It's not purely based on intuition. Yes, an intuition is a mental state, but not all mental states are intuitive. I don't know why you're having trouble understanding this. If someone comes up with a definition for something, they're providing the necessary and sufficient conditions for the meaning of that term. Okay?
No.
I don't have to base that entirely on intuition. I could appeal to other conceptual truths that I have in the background, and then that allows me to make moral statements in the foreground. I don't get why you think because I have a concept of morality that it means it must be entirely instinctually based. That's just wrong. You have no idea how concepts are formed then. Because I could say...
Okay, now we're just going to Adam, you're just attacking me personally.
Again, you're server muting. Wait, he was giving out
I can't server mute, I'm not a mod.
I know you... Wait.
He thinks that because I'm calling him out on his ignorance, that's an insult.
It is an Adam, yes.
Dog, you're an owner of this server.
It's an ad hoc, yeah.
You're
I'm not server muting.
Did the Mr. Straight guy just call it ad hominem?
I'm not a mod, I can't server mute.
That's so funny.
To call somebody, he's attacking me.
Subjugating the server like you are to the
It's not an ad hominem. I didn't say you're an idiot, therefore your argument is false. I'm just saying you're an idiot. But you are.
Mr. Straight,
you did appeal to me being ignorant.
Mr. Straight, you understand the distinction between making an insult in lieu of a counter argument and making an insult in addition to a counter argument? You understand the difference?
Yeah, I understand the difference. Yes, but that's not what.
Only one of those is
that. At least I didn't understand it to be the case.
I have no idea.
Yes, only one of them is a dominant. Only one of them is a dominant.
I can have...
He's casting his both. I can't understand.
No, I understood.
This is
only
just
one
Rody with Down syndrome.
Oh my god. Only one of them is a dominant. You're correct. Now, both. You're saying something different than the other guy. The other guy said that he bases the way he interacts with moral problems based on his intuition. You're saying based on your mental state. That's a different claim.
No, that's not a different claim, right? The point is
you're saying the intuition is the same.
Then he cuts him off. What's wrong?
The intuition isn't the same thing as the concept. The concept is the definition. The intuition is just your sense impression of what's going on. It's not the same thing.
That's not what he said. I asked him specifically how does he deal with every moral problem. He told me he takes the moral problem and he uses his intuition to solve this moral problem. You're saying you're using your mental state. It's a different system.
Wait, but it's still a mental state he's appealing to. I'm just appealing to it conceptually. So then the question is, why can't I use my concept? Then the question is, why can't I use my concept in order to resolve all moral dilemmas?
It's less possibilities. Intuitions don't allow anyone.
Less possibility. What do you mean by less possibility?
Maybe you should listen. You would know what I mean. Intuition doesn't give any room for any intellect to get involved. If you're talking about the mental state, a mental state does leave room for intellect. There's a difference between what you said and what he said. The critique on you would be different. You wouldn't act like an animal if you would use the intellect, obviously.
No, but look, I'm not acting like an animal either because I'm using it off of my concept.
I just said you don't act like an animal. I said he does. I said he does.
Well, who cares? You're talking to me. You're not talking to him. Right. So then the question is,
you joined in defending for the other guy.
Hold on a second.
I'm saying you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Look, hold your horses. Holy shit. Look, if I have a concept of morality, and that concept has to do with maximization of well-being, what's the argument I can't resolve every single moral dilemma based off of that concept?
When did I say that?
Of course. No, you said I can't because there's less possibility.
I never said I can't. I never said you can't.
But first of all, you didn't outline the modality. You didn't outline the modality.
I need, again, more than one word to answer you. I never said you can't if you have this general framework of an action that outside.
Oh, and here comes the server mute again. Which retarded mod?
It's not a server mute.
It's straight, Mr. Straight.
Yes, it is. Dumbass. We can see it on his. That would make it a server mute. Your server mute. You fucking retard.
It's not in the entire server. It's in this room specifically.
Nobody's saying it's in the entire server. It's a server mute.
You said server mute.
Yeah.
Well, you deserve it also. Blunt.
Look at this, like coward.
It's okay. I would be a coward. I'm sorry for being.
God is just a
Blunt. Blunt. I forgot.
Yeah, we're asking you to spit it out, and
I forgot what I want to say. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Why do you believe in God?
Why?
You know, like
how's it related?
Am I allowed to speak?
Yes, you're not. If you're not.
Yeah. So the question on the table is, if the concept is being employed and it's like reflexive with moral terms, right? It's reflexive with this notion that I ought to maximize well-being for conscious creatures. What's the argument that I can't resolve every single moral dilemma if I'm appealing back to that concept?
I never said you couldn't. You can.
Well, you did. You said.
No, I never. No. Okay, no, you're not going to. Okay, no. I would mute you every time you speak in my name. I would repeat myself. I never said when you have an outright rule, then obviously you can solve every moral dilemma. That's not what he said. He said he uses his intellect to solve every moral dilemma. And I never. Sorry, not the intellect. He said he uses his intuition to solve every moral dilemma. And you can solve every moral dilemma also using your intuition. My problem with it was that it makes every single solution subjective.
Wait, but if the intuition is just like some mental representation of like their concept of morality, I don't understand. Like, why is an inference required in that instance in order to resolve it, and not just the sense impression? Like, what is it about the intuition that makes it like less truth conducive than someone providing an inference as to how that moral dilemma is resolved?
Because the intuition. Oh no, you asked a question. You need to give me room to answer it. Because the intuition is subjective, and it's not. And there is no argument for why the intuition is correct.
Okay,
you would try. Oh my! No. Listen. Let me finish.
Look, we're granting you that the intuition.
Oh no! Let me finish.
We're granting you that the intuition.
Okay, fair enough. In this case, you ought to try to minimize the amount of claims that could be false. Every intuitional claim could be false. So my critique was that he would have, if I would bring infinite amount of moral problems, he would have infinite amount of subjective claims, and each and every one of them could be false. That's my critique.
Yeah, but your critique is nonsense. I feel like that's the fourth time I said I could apply that to any sense impression that I have. And then the question is, like, why would that yield like less truth conduciveness than giving an inference? Like, you're just assuming that.
No, you couldn't.
You're just assuming that it would be better if I based that moral disagreement or that moral resolution on an inference, and that's the thing that you need to justify.
You couldn't bring. No, you're just outright false. You couldn't bring to every single system infinite amount of moral problems. And every single one of them would be completely subjective, only based on the intuition.
Yeah, but I didn't say that.
What is occurring in this case?
I didn't say that you need an inference to resolve every single moral dilemma. I'm just saying, why is it in this instance? Why is the inference more truth conducive than the intuition?
What are you saying? What are you saying? What is your?
Why is it in this instance that a person would have to provide an inference as to how they resolve this moral dilemma, and why can't they just appeal to some mental representation that they have in their mind? Like, why?
Because there's more possibility for falseness.
Why is one to you more truth?
Because there is more possibility. Because there's more possibility for falseness. If
more possibility for falseness. What do you mean by more possibility?
Oh my god, man! 4 words are not enough. There is more possibility for falseness if for every single case you're just going to use your intuition. Rather than if you're going to have, oh my god, let me finish.
I'm trying to get a grip at what you're saying.
You see how I don't overtalk you and you overtalk me? The difference would be that in this case, he would need to bring his intuition to every single moral problem. In my case, you have some axioms, and for the axioms, you build a moral system and you solve every single moral problem with this system. That's not what is happening with this system. I would just view this to be more objective than his system.
That was the most incoherent piece of dribble I've ever heard in my life. Like the fact, let's assume that that's true. That there's more. Let's assume that that's true. That there's more possibility for falsity if I appeal to my intuition. How does that make the intuition non-truth conducive? Like, how is the intuition devoid of like resolving the moral dilemma in question? Because you're claiming you made the claim earlier it's impossible. You made the claim earlier it's impossible, so I want you to justify why it's impossible for me to appeal to my intuition.
No, it is possible. You could. I never said it's impossible. What? How could I say something is impossible?
No, you said that because there's more possibility. You said that because there's more possibility of falsity under this like intuitive model, that therefore I can't appeal to it when I try to resolve all moral dilemmas.
No, you can appeal to it. You can appeal to it. I'm looking at this as Strawman. You can appeal to it. You would just you would just have more possibility for being false. It's possible to appeal to it.
More possibility
for being false because every single I mean what?
Do you mean it's more probable that it's false? Like, why would you use a modal?
I have no clue what probability will mean. Just I just mean there is more possibilities. More.
Yeah, but what do you mean by?
Are you Zizek? Is Zizek in here?
Who is screaming?
When you're talking, can you itch your nose, please? Do that.
Okay. Continue, Blan.
So, like, when you say it's more possible, like, what are you trying to say? Like, is it like more logically possible? That's just if you say it's like it's more likely under this like modality that I've picked out that it's false.
There's more places.
Okay.
By more
but you can
possible,
also make the same claim about
by more possible, I meant there is more places where his claim could be wrong because for every single moral problem. He would bring his own. He would bring a solution that is only based on intuition. So let's say I bring 50 more problems. So let's say I would bring 50 more problems. He would have 15. He would bring 15 solutions. Each and every one of them is only based on his intuition, which makes each and every one of them completely subjective. In my system, let's say I have 45 axioms or such propositions, and let's say I solve 50 more problems with them. I would have 45 places. I would have 45 propositions of subjective. That would be a better system compared to his. That's the claim.
Yeah, but then all you're saying is, okay, my view, because I claim, I've never justified this claim, but because I claim that there's an objective standard for my morality, and all he has is his intuition. My theory fares better. Like, your claim is that there's some objective reference to these, like, moral properties and these moral propositions. And then when you were asked to justify that claim, you just appealed back to the same framework that, because I'm not appealing solely to my intuition, therefore I'm justified.
Why did you ask me to justify? You didn't ask me to justify anything.
I did ask you to justify. The room knows I did ask you to justify.
What? Yeah. Man, you don't take the appeal to the room. Why did you ask me to justify?
I asked you to justify why your theory fares better theoretically than the subjectivist view, and you kept appealing back. Because I'm claiming
why the theory
reference. I'm claiming an objective reference to moral propositions.
He's just blathering nonsensical.
Why the theory? If I'm blathering nonsense, the way I'm listening. That would be a huge waste of time on your part.
Insane.
Because this is how you operate.
Let me answer.
You think justification
mate, let me answer. You're going to be muted again. Thank you. I would claim, based on my intuition, that the only thing that is good without any need of filtering is the goodwill. I would take it to be an axiom that how do you say it? I don't remember how to say it exactly, but I would take it to be an axiom that nature created the nature creates organisms in the way that every single organ is perfectly suitable for its purpose, and the purpose of every single being is to survive, thrive, and be happy. The intellect doesn't fulfill the goal of being happy. Therefore, it has other purpose. This other purpose.
Hey, listen here, Nazi Jew. Listen here, Nazi Jew. Nazi Jew. There is no purpose to.
I would use this.
So none of that follows.
No, let me
just be clear.
No, I would. You can critique me after I finish. You would, so the intellect. So you would use the intellect to. So the goal of the intellect would be to direct the will into being good because you ought to do good. Wait, let me mute you.
I would say those are guesses.
That is just unbelievable. So first of all, your syllogism is invalid, right? So happy do. And then second of all, I did ask you for justification. I did. So now, yeah, you see, now he can't relax himself. He has to spurt. So
I asked you what is invalid. How is it
why appealing to this non-intuitive morality is going to lend more credence to the subjectivist view.
What is invalid?
I can't respond.
You said something is invalid. I didn't hear what you said. What was invalid?
The syllogism that you provided was invalid. It didn't even follow.
Sorry,
it was two random premises, and then
I don't know what is a syllogism. What is a syllogism?
Okay, there you go, guys. There you go. He doesn't know what a syllogism. So,
what is
the second part is.
Man, I wouldn't be able to answer you. I wouldn't be able to answer.
There being more possibility of falsity under subjectivism. I mean, you still weren't clear as to what you meant. You still weren't clear as to what you meant by that. I'm assuming that you meant more chances to be false, like it's more likely to be false.
I wouldn't be able to answer if you're not going to say what syllogism is.
It doesn't justify the claim in question. The claim in question is like, why is your theory? Hold on a second. The question is, why is your moral
explain what is syllogism? I wouldn't be able to answer.
The question on the table is, why is it more theoretically virtuous to hold to moral realism than moral anti-realism? And your response has only been through this entire time, because I just purport, or I just claim that there's like an objective reference to these moral properties. But that's only because I'm not employing the same axioms or the same like intuitive conceptions of morality as the relativist. Okay, but then the question is, why is your pre-theoretic intuitions better than that of the relativist?
What argument would you have against what I'm saying? Let's say
you need to give it. You need to give a rebuttal to what I'm saying.
No. Again, 2 words are not enough. Let's say
what?
Let's say truly my entire.
I have no idea what you just said.
Listen. Let's say my entire argument is just. I'm just assuming that objective morality exists. Under your theory, what would be the problem with that?
What would be because you're not justifying it, right? That's the point. The claim on the table.
No, let's say my intuition.
The claim on the table.
Let's say
the claim on the table is that you're justified. The claim on the table is that you're justified over moral realism.
No. I am justifying it. My reason.
You're pretending.
For believing morality. Let's say my reason for believing morality is objective is solely on my intuition. What would be that's the same reason that's the same way you solve every moral problem. What would be the problem with that?
It's fantastical. You're making believe your guess.
But then you would be contradicting the same epistemic standards that you were calling Jeff out on, because Jeff was basing it on his intuition, but he arrived at it through moral relativism. But you're coming at it through the moral realist lens, and that's why. Then I asked why is your pre-theoretic concept about morality? Why do those fare better than Jeff?
I would have less. I would have less subjective statements. Even if I would assume that, I would have less subjective statements.
Well, no, because you're.
Do you agree? Do you agree? I would have less. Do you agree? I would have less.
Hold on. Can I?
No, I'm not going to.
Can I add on to that?
No. I'm not going to.
So you don't want to hear. You don't want to hear critique.
Yes, I don't want to hear. Do you want to?
Okay, got it. You just want an echo chamber. You don't want critique. You don't want to hear critique. That's fine.
Can you answer my question? Do you agree? I'm also allowed to critique, right? Okay, so do you agree? Okay, so thank you.
You're not allowing the other person.
Okay, now we are just again opting for insults, which by the way proves my other point that you're acting like an animal. Now I'm asking you, do you agree that I would have less subjective statements than him?
Less objective state? No, you have more commitment.
So objective.
So you're framing it as if.
Can you name? No. Continue. I want answer to my questions. What can you name my commitments relative to his commitments and show, please, that I have more commitments? I don't see why I would have more commitments.
You have more commitments because you're adding in a new ontological catalog.
Show my commitments. Name my commitments. No. Name my commitments.
Can I explain why? You asked me why, and now.
No, sir, you can't. Name my commitments relative to his commitments, and please show I have more commitments.
Yeah, so you're going to be muted if you're not going to. You're going to hold to categorical. You're going to hold to categorical moral facts, and those categorical moral facts are not reducible to natural terms. So you're a non-naturalist about them, and so you want to posit the physical world plus these non-natural sort of entities that you think indispensably explain morality but don't, right? And then I'm saying you're adding in something to the catalog. You're adding something to the catalog that the subjectivist doesn't need to posit.
Yeah, but he posits every single one of his solutions.
Okay, but if you say
that's infinite relative to, let's say, ER 50. That's infinite amount of
no, but you're just competing.
Compared to, let's say, I have 50.
Look, it doesn't
that's infinite
matter.
relative to 50. He has far more. He has infinitely more.
Yeah, but that music just trample everything you just said.
I can't hear any music. Is somebody playing music? Nobody's playing music. There is something on your front. Maybe on YouTube open, but somebody playing on your game. Oh, fuck. Is the conversation over? Yeah, I think he's not here anymore.
Well, I mean, it's obvious what he's saying here, right? He's saying that you have more commitments because the subjectivist, right, doesn't have to believe in these realist normative items that the objectivist needs to appeal to.
No, it's not. It's not just that, right? Because you could be a naturalist. You could be a naturalist, but you wouldn't be guilty of this sort of parsimony objection, in my opinion. But he's not reducing moral facts to merely just natural statements about the world. Mm-hmm. He's saying there are moral facts. They contain this non-natural element to them,
morality,
and you posit
I appeal
alongside that. I'm just positing the physical world.
Okay, I got it. You posit the physical. I had. Do you think that? So you don't take it to be the case there is some correct moral action, right?
Correct moral action.
You don't take it. You don't think there is some correct moral action.
Yeah, but I think the truth maker for that is
are you going to answer me? Is there a correct moral action?
The truth maker.
Is there a correct moral action, or is there no correct moral action?
Yeah, there is a correct moral action, but I'm saying
So if there is a correct moral action, it describes what is ought to be done, right?
Yes.
Okay, if it describes what ought to be done, it doesn't describe what is done, right? Not necessarily, at the very least.
Okay. Where are you going with this?
Then it's. I hope I get to some conclusion. If the moral action is something that is ought to be done, it's not something that is done. Then it's separate from nature, right? It's a different field. It's not related to the natural field.
Yeah, but my point is you're
no. Please answer me. Please answer. Please,
natural facts
sir. Please, no. Don't deviate from
normative
the question.
non-natural facts.
Please answer my question. You're claiming, if morality exists, there is an action that you ought to do, and this action is separate from nature, right? Nature describes what is the case, morality describes what ought to be the case. So this claim of what is ought to be the case is separate from nature.
Yes.
Okay, so we are also a non-naturalist.
No, you fucking moron. I'm saying that's what you're committed to. You're committed to saying there are descriptive facts about the world, plus there are these non-natural items in the world, because you're adding in some other category via non-natural moral items that the subjectivist doesn't posit. So you are committed to
no, we posit the same thing. It's
what do you mean we? What do you mean we?
As far
I'm
as
saying
my
that's
logic.
what you're committed to.
Oh my god, man, I don't want to mute you again, please. Every time
you are the dumbest human being alive. I hope you know that. And I'm not even being ironic. I'm not even being ironic when I say that. Your level of stupidity.
Okay, if you're going to go to insults, there's no need to speak. Let's have a fruitful conversation. I see you can't control yourself, but please, at the very least, try.
No, he's right about that. My baby heard a little bit of the conversation with you, Grace, too. She can't even speak.
If your baby can understand English in this age, it would be impressive.
No,
if what you're doing is going up, if what you're doing is going online and insulting people, then maybe you shouldn't be the one.
Well, it's Discord. You have to deal with it. You have to deal with it, or else
I would give you a baby. I'm dealing with it. Yeah, sorry, I need to deal with it. Sorry, I would deal with it now. So you posit that there is an action that ought to be done, right?
Yes.
Okay, this action will be separate from nature?
Yes, but that's because...
how are you... So, no, okay, yes...
You realize that I can think that there is...
I need to mute you. Please. I asked you a yes or no question. So if there is an action, there is a field that exists to describe what is ought to be done, and what is ought to be done is separate from nature, then you also believe there is you also believe that there is some non-natural thing that exists. We fall into the same category here.
You are such an idiot.
Man, every single time you're going to respond with an insult, I'm just going to mute you. I don't like to be insulted.
You're just not understanding. Just calm down and listen.
It's okay. I'm allowed to not understand.
Look,
it doesn't mean. Wait, by the way, are you according to
they don't mean the same thing? I agree with you that they don't mean the same thing, but I'm not committed to an ontology. I'm not committed to them actually existing. But I can still agree.
So you're referring to imaginary.
They don't mean the same thing.
So you're just referring to your imaginary friend right now, your imaginary field that describes what is ought to be done, and you think that's better than what I'm doing?
No, I'm saying definitionally they aren't the same thing, but I'm not committed to there being non-natural items.
No. What is the difference?
The difference, oh my god, look, the difference is that when I speak of like natural terms, I'm going to use terms that like refer to the laws of physics. When I use moral terms, like typically when people like talk in moral language and they say that something like ought or ought not be done, like under my conceptual analysis, they're trying to pick out non-natural moral items. Now, I'm not committed to there being non-natural moral items. I'm not committed to that, but I can still think that they're not the same thing. That what they mean, they don't co-refer, right? They don't mean the same thing. Okay, great.
If morality exists, then you would be committed to that. If morality exists, morality describes what is ought to be done. What ought to be done is different than what is done. What ought to be done is different than what is the case. What is the case is what nature represents, and you think there is another thing, and you think there is another thing, right? Separate from nature that describes what is ought to be done. So I don't see how we're on the same boat in this case. I don't see how we're different. And I'm repeating the same thing I said before.
The boat that you're in is assuming that morality is objective. Therefore, it would be the case that these non-natural moral items exist. But you haven't justified why morality exists objectively. You just gave a conditional statement, and I'm saying the terms in question, the terms between I don't know, like pick out something natural like pleasure, and some like non-natural moral predicate like good. I'm saying that those aren't identical to one another.
I'm sorry, you agree that morality also exists objectively. No, not you also agreed. You also
you can't hold. You're saying that I can't. Well, on 10 minutes on, and you don't allow another person to reply to you.
I'm so sorry for blabbering for 10 minutes, but I'm going to blabber a little bit more. You also say that morality exists, right? And morality is objective.
I didn't say morality is objective, right?
Morality exists, but it's not objective.
Yes.
How could it be the case?
Well, look.
Holy shit, dude.
Oh my god! Holy shit! I'm saying your commitment to these non-natural moral items.
No, answer my question. Don't answer my question.
I'm getting to that. Holy shit!
No, you're going to start with that. You're not going to.
No. Look.
If no, you're just going to be muted, sir. If no, you're just going to be muted. I'm sorry.
Just blabbering on.
Fair enough.
You're so ignorant that you need some background information to understand.
I'm so sorry for being ignorant, but you need to deal with me, or you can go speak to somebody else. Now, both. If you're not
like a dishonest person, and you're like incredibly
confused. I'm so sorry for being dishonest, but sorry. Bold. If you're not going to answer right now with why morality is subjective in your worldview, then
everyone understands what Ballad is trying to say here. You're the only one.
If everybody's trying to understand, there is no reason to stick with me.
Look, you're burden shifting because you know that your original claim was that morality is objective.
Fair enough. You're not going to answer. Last chance. Answer.
You're coping.
Nothing more than that.
Cope is so strong.
Well, you're coping because you burden.
Answer. You claim something in the same way you pressure me for what? 2 hours. Answer also.
Yeah, I'm going to answer once you justify your claim.
No, you're going to answer now. You're going
to answer my original question.
I already answered the original question like I think 15 times for 2 hours straight. You're going to stay muted. You're welcome to leave the room. Actually, I also need to go.
Wait, before you go, I don't understand because early on you said all your moral axioms were subjective. So are you going back on that, or are you trying to say like something else? Like that these axioms are just guesses?
Every axiom is subjective. It's not only mine. Every axiom is subjective.
All right, well, I took those to be like, I thought you were trying to say that they were just, all these principles were just like derivative of your preferences or something like that.
No. Every axiom is subjective. I'm not saying that my axioms are objective. I don't.
Aren't you trying to say that these moral principles, these axioms, like track something in the world, true of the world, outside of your mind?